Stop doing these 4 things and watch an avoidant chase you within 7 days. I know that sounds bold. I know it sounds like something you've heard before and rolled your eyes at. But stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share with you is not what you think it is. This is not about playing games. This is not about manipulation. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. This is about something far more powerful than any of that. This is about understanding the psychology of the avoidant attachment style so deeply that you stop accidentally pushing them away without even realizing you're doing it. Because here is the cold, hard truth that nobody is telling you. You are not losing this person because you are not enough. You are losing this person because of specific behaviors, specific patterns, specific things you are doing on a daily basis that are triggering their avoidance mechanism. And the beautiful and terrifying thing about that truth is this: if behaviors are causing the problem, then changing behaviors can solve it. But before we get into the 4 things you need to stop doing, I need you to comment one word in the comment section right now. Comment the word free if you are currently dealing with an avoidant in your life and you want to finally understand how to stop chasing and start attracting. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that right now, because what we talk about on this channel will change the way you see every relationship you've ever been in. Now let's get into this. Let me paint you a picture. You meet someone, there is chemistry, there is connection, there is this electric feeling that something real is happening here. And then slowly, almost imperceptibly, they start to pull back. They go a little quiet. Their texts get shorter. They seem less interested. And you feel this panic rise up in your chest, this desperate need to fix whatever just broke. So you reach out more. You try harder, you become more available, you make yourself smaller or bigger or whatever you think they need. And the more you do all of that, the further they seem to go. Sound familiar? This is the avoidance cycle. And the reason most people get completely destroyed by it is because everything that feels natural to do in that moment is actually the exact wrong thing to do. Let me explain what is happening inside the mind of an avoidant person. An avoidant attachment style is typically formed in childhood, when a person learned that expressing their needs or emotions led to disappointment. Maybe their caregivers were emotionally unavailable. Maybe vulnerability was punished or ignored. So their brain developed a very sophisticated defense mechanism. Whenever intimacy or closeness gets too intense, their nervous system sends out a red alert. Danger, pull back, create distance, protect yourself. Now here is where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that most people completely miss. An avoidant is not pulling away from you specifically. They are pulling away from the feeling of being overwhelmed. They are pulling away from what feels like a loss of independence. They are pulling away from an invisible threat that their nervous system has manufactured. It is not about you. It has almost never been about you. But here is what happens. When they pull back, you panic. And when you panic, you start doing certain things. Completely understandable things. Human things. But things that to the avoidance nervous system read as exactly the kind of overwhelming pressure they are trying to escape. And that is where the cycle gets locked in. So what are the 4 things you need to stop doing right now? The first thing you need to stop doing is what I call emotional flooding. Emotional flooding is when you lead with your anxiety. When you reach out, not because you genuinely want to connect, but because the silence is killing you and you need reassurance. You need them to respond so you can feel okay again. You need them to say something so you can breathe again. And here is the thing, they can feel that. They can feel the weight of that need in every single message you send. They can sense the desperation, even when you have carefully crafted the most casual sounding text you've ever written. Because avoidants are actually incredibly perceptive when it comes to detecting emotional need. It is literally one of their survival skills. They developed it precisely so they could see it coming and protect themselves. So when you send that third message in a row, when you call after texting, when you say things like, I just need to know we're okay, or I feel like you're pulling away from me, or I don't understand what's happening with us, what you are actually doing is activating the very defense mechanism you are trying to overcome. You are not making them feel connected to you. You are making them feel cornered by you. Think about it from their perspective for a second. Remember, this is a person whose nervous system has learned that intimacy equals danger. So when you come to them overflowing with emotion and need and anxiety, their instinct is not to open up. Their instinct is to run. Now, I am not saying your feelings are wrong. Your feelings are completely valid. You are dealing with something genuinely painful and confusing, and it makes total sense that you are anxious. But the way you are expressing those feelings, or more specifically, the frequency and intensity with which you are expressing them, is working against you. What you need to do instead is this: feel your feelings, process them, but not with the avoidant. Not at first. Not while the dynamic is still this fragile. Journal them. Talk to a friend. Exercise. Breathe. Give yourself the emotional release you need without making the avoidant the receptacle for all of that. Because when you come to an avoidant from a place of groundedness instead of anxiety, everything changes. When they can feel that you are okay, that you are not falling apart without them, that you have your own emotional regulation, something shifts. You stop being a source of pressure and start being a source of calm. And avoidants, despite everything, are deeply attracted to calm. The second thing you need to stop doing is over-explaining yourself. Oh, this one is so painful because it comes from such an honest place. When an avoidant goes quiet or seems distant, the urge to explain yourself is almost overwhelming. You want to explain why you said what you said. You want to explain that you didn't mean it the way it came out. You want to explain your feelings in such thorough and comprehensive detail that surely they will finally understand and everything will be okay. But here is what over-explaining actually communicates to an avoidant. It communicates that you are seeking their validation, that you cannot sit with the discomfort of them potentially misunderstanding you, that you need them to agree with your version of events in order to feel secure. And all of that is kryptonite to someone who is already feeling overwhelmed by the weight of your emotional world. Every paragraph you send, every voice note that starts with, I just want you to understand where I'm coming from. Every text conversation that goes on for hours because you are trying to achieve resolution through sheer volume of words. All of it is doing the opposite of what you intend. What you need to do instead is say less and mean more. When you do communicate, be clear, be direct, and then stop. Say what you need to say once, say it calmly, and then let it land. Trust that they heard you, trust that they are processing it, even if they don't respond immediately. Give them the space to come to their own conclusions without needing to manage their thought process for them. Avoidants actually respect people who can communicate with economy, who say something real and then don't chase it with 17 follow-up messages, who can be in the discomfort of silence without it breaking them. That kind of confidence, that kind of restraint is genuinely attractive to an avoidant in a way that hours of emotional explanation never will be. The third thing you need to stop doing is collapsing your own life. And this is perhaps the biggest one, the one that causes the most long-term damage, not just to the relationship, but to you as a person. When you are in the anxious pursuit of an avoidant, there is this almost gravitational pull toward making them the center of your entire universe. Your mood depends on whether they texted back. Your weekend plans revolve around whether they might be available. Your sense of self-worth rises and falls based on how warm or cold they are being on any given day. You stop seeing your friends as much. You stop pursuing your own goals with the same energy. You stop doing the things that light you up because all of your mental and emotional bandwidth is consumed by trying to figure out what is happening with this one person. And the devastating irony of this is that the more you collapse your own life for someone, the less attractive you become to them. Not because they are cruel, not because they don't care about you, but because an avoidant is deeply, instinctively drawn to people who have their own thing going on. People who are not waiting around. People who are genuinely busy, genuinely passionate, genuinely alive in their own right. When you had your own life, when you were doing your own thing and they were just one part of it, you were magnetic. When you collapsed everything in pursuit of them, you inadvertently became someone whose entire value proposition was being available to them. And that is not attractive to anyone, but especially not to an avoidant. So what do you need to do? You need to get your life back. Not as a strategy, not as a game, but because your life actually deserves your attention. Because the things you were passionate about before this person came along are still worth being passionate about. Because your friends miss you. Because your goals are still valid. Because you as a person have inherent value that exists completely independently of whether this one avoidant decides to show up for you. When you genuinely re-engage with your own life, something almost miraculous happens. The emotional charge of the situation drops. You stop sending those anxious messages because you are actually busy. You stop obsessing because you have other things to think about. And the avoidant, almost without fail, starts to notice, starts to reach out more, starts to wonder what you are up to. Because the pressure has dropped. And suddenly, you seem like someone worth pursuing, rather than someone who is pursuing them. The fourth thing you need to stop doing is rewarding inconsistency. This one requires some real honesty with yourself, because in many cases, the dynamic you are living in has become a cycle where you tolerate inconsistency, reward the moments of warmth, and accept far less than you deserve because any crumb of connection feels so much better than the withdrawal. You stop doing the things that light you up because all of your mental and emotional bandwidth is consumed by figuring out what is happening with this one person. And in doing so, without meaning to, you have trained this person that they can come and go as they please and you will still be there. That they can be distant for a week and then send a casual text and you will respond immediately, warmly, eagerly. That there are essentially no real consequences for treating you like an option rather than a priority. Now, I want to be very careful here because I am not saying you should be cold or punishing or play some elaborate revenge fantasy in your head. That is not what this is. What I am saying is that you need to develop and maintain actual standards about how you are willing to be treated. Not as a strategy to make them chase you, but because you genuinely deserve to be treated well. When someone who has been inconsistent suddenly shows up, you do not have to be immediately available. You do not have to act like nothing happened. It is entirely appropriate to continue with your plans, to respond a little later than you normally would, to not immediately go back to your most open, most vulnerable, most available self. Not because you are playing hard to get, but because you are a person with a life and with dignity and with a memory that extends past 5 minutes. And here is what happens when you stop rewarding inconsistency. One of two things occurs. Either the avoidant realizes that they actually have to show up consistently if they want consistent access to you, and they start doing that, or they reveal that they were never actually invested enough to do that. And as painful as that is, you now have genuinely important information about what this connection is actually worth. Either outcome is better than what you have right now. which is you in a constant state of anxiety, chasing someone who may or may not be capable of giving you what you need. Now let me talk about something that ties all four of these things together, because there is a common thread running through all of them, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Everything that makes an avoidant pull further away has one thing in common. It communicates that your entire emotional world is dependent on them. Every flooded message, every long explanation, every collapsed plan, every immediately forgiven inconsistency tells them the same story. I need you to be okay. I cannot function fully without knowing where we stand. You are the source of my okayness. And for a person whose deepest fear is losing their independence, being someone's emotional oxygen is absolutely terrifying. What makes an avoidant feel genuinely drawn toward you, genuinely curious about you, genuinely motivated to pursue you is the opposite of all that. It is evidence that you are a whole, functioning, interesting person whose happiness does not depend on them. It is the feeling that being with you would add to their life rather than consume it. It is the sense that you have standards and that you will not simply mold yourself into whatever shape they need you to be. And I want to say something important here, something I really need you to hear. The goal of all of this is not to get the avoidant to chase you for the sake of it. The goal is for you to become the version of yourself that is most attractive, most grounded, and most worthy of the love you are looking for. And when you do that, yes, the avoidant may well start to pursue you. But even more importantly, you will have rebuilt something essential inside yourself that the anxiety and the chasing had been slowly eroding: your sense of self. Because here is what no one tells you about being in anxious pursuit of an avoidant. It does not just not work. It actively makes you less of yourself. Every time you compromise your standards, every time you swallow your feelings, every time you reorganize your entire life around someone who is pulling away, you send yourself a message. You tell yourself that you are not worth showing up for, that you have to earn love through constant effort and availability, that your needs are too much, that you are too much. And that message is a lie. But it gets louder every time you behave as though it is true. So when I tell you to stop doing these four things, I am not just giving you a relationship strategy. I am giving you a way to rebuild your relationship with yourself. Let's go back through all four quickly because I want them to be absolutely clear in your mind. Stop emotional flooding. Feel your feelings, process your anxiety, but stop using the avoidant as your emotional dumping ground. Come to every interaction from groundedness rather than need. Stop over-explaining yourself. Say what needs to be said once, clearly and calmly, and then give it space. Trust that you were heard and resist the urge to chase your communication with more communication. Stop collapsing your own life. Reconnect with the things and people and goals that matter to you independent of this relationship. Get genuinely busy. Get genuinely interested in your own existence again. Stop rewarding inconsistency. Hold your standards not as a punishment, but as a genuine expression of the fact that you deserve consistent, respectful treatment. Make it clear through your behavior that how you are treated matters. Now, here is something I want to address because I can already hear the thought forming in your mind. But what if they just use the space to move further away? What if giving them room means losing them completely? I understand why that thought is terrifying, but I need you to sit with this for a moment. If the only way to keep this person in your life is to constantly chase them, to constantly shrink yourself, to constantly accept crumbs of connection and call it a feast, is that actually a relationship? Or is it an arrangement where you do all the emotional labor and they reap all the benefit? An avoidant who is capable of genuine connection, who is willing to grow, who actually values you, will not disappear when you stop chasing them. They will, after some processing time, often quite a bit of processing time, start to move toward you because the pressure that was activating their avoidance has dropped. Because you are now showing up as someone they feel safe with rather than someone they feel overwhelmed by. And an avoidant who was never genuinely invested, who was enjoying the chase and the ego boost without any real intention of showing up, well, they may well disappear. And I know that is painful to even think about. But that person disappearing from your life is not a loss. It is information. It is clarity. It is freedom, even if it does not feel like it yet. The 7-day frame in the title of this is real, but it requires nuance. In 7 days of genuinely stopping these 4 behaviors, you will start to see a shift. It may not be dramatic, it may be subtle, a little more initiative on their part, a slightly warmer tone, a sense that the energy between you is moving in a different direction. You will also start to see a shift in yourself, a little more calm, a little more centeredness, a little more confidence that you are going to be okay regardless of what they decide. And that confidence, that settled, secure energy is the most attractive thing you can possibly bring to any relationship, especially one with an avoidant. Let me tell you something about avoidance that very few people talk about. Despite all of the pulling away, despite the walls and the distance and the seeming self-sufficiency, avoidants actually want connection, deeply. They want it just as much as you do, maybe more. The difference is that their nervous system has learned to see the thing they want as a threat to their survival. They are not choosing to be difficult. They are not choosing to keep you at arm's length for fun. They are genuinely caught in a conflict between their need for closeness and their fear of it. And what they are looking for, what all of us are ultimately looking for, is someone who feels safe. Someone who does not add to the noise of their anxiety, but instead creates a quiet space where connection feels possible rather than dangerous. When you stop flooding them with emotion, you become safer. When you stop over-explaining, you become less overwhelming. When you rebuild your own life, you become less of a pressure and more of a draw. When you stop rewarding inconsistency, you become someone they have to actually try for. And trying, genuine effort, is where real investment begins. Now I want to give you a practical day-by-day sense of what this might look like, because abstract concepts are great, but you need something you can actually do tomorrow morning. In the first couple of days, the work is almost entirely internal. You are resisting the urge to reach out. You are sitting with the discomfort of the silence. And I will be honest with you, this is the hardest part. Your nervous system will be screaming at you. It will feel like inaction is the same as giving up. It is not. Inaction in service of your own groundedness is one of the most powerful things you can do. In this phase, the most important thing you can do is reconnect with yourself. Not as a strategy, as a genuine act of self-respect. Go back to the gym if you have been neglecting it. See the friends you have been canceling on. Work on something you care about. Not to distract yourself, but to genuinely re-engage with your own life. In the middle days, you will likely start to feel a shift, either in them or in yourself, or both. The silence may start to feel less suffocating. You may notice you are checking your phone slightly less often. And you may find that you have a little more capacity to think clearly about what you actually want from this situation. In the later days, if they do reach out, and very often they will, your job is to respond from that new centered place, rather than from the anxious, eager to please place you might have been operating from before. Be warm, be genuine, but be the version of you that has been rebuilding these past few days. Not the version that immediately forgets all of that the moment they send a casual hey. This is where people often undo all of their progress. They get a response, They feel that rush of relief and they immediately go back to flooding, over-explaining, and being maximally available. And the avoidant feels the pressure return and pulls back again, and the cycle continues. Breaking the cycle requires that you hold on to what you have built even when they start reaching out, especially when they start reaching out. This does not being cold. It means being real, responding genuinely but not compulsively, being available but not instantly, being interested but not desperate, holding on to yourself even as you move toward them. There is one more thing I want to address before we wrap this up, and it is probably the most important thing I have said in this entire video. None of this works if you're doing it as a performance. Avoidants can sense the difference between genuine growth and a game. Don't do this to make them chase you. Do it to become someone who doesn't abandon themselves for a relationship. Someone who has boundaries, emotional control, and self-respect. When the urge to text, over-explain, or chase shows up, pause and ask yourself, am I repeating the same pattern? Then choose differently. You won't be perfect, you'll slip. What matters is returning to yourself every time. Each time you choose your own peace over anxiety, you become stronger. And here's the paradox. When you no longer need the avoidant to chase you to feel whole, that's when they're most likely to move closer. Secure, grounded people are magnetic. There's no guarantee they'll come back. But by doing this work, one of two things will happen. They'll start turning toward you, or you'll realize you no longer need to chase them. Both are wins. Comment free if this resonated with you. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.